Hello. Right off the top, I bet you have questions. Why am I dressed like this? Why is my mailman tied up and gagged in the other room? I'm just kidding. The uniform is mine. My civilian job, I'm a letter carrier for the United States Postal Service. The United States Postal Service is one of the most recognized and trusted entities in the United States. Josh Sanborn reports in Time magazine, dated December 9th of 2011, that the USPS is the second largest employer in the United States. Everybody knows who number one is, right? Walmart. You got it. According to USPS.com, the Postal Service employs over 617,000 people. So I'm one of several hundred thousand, but a few of the others you may recognize. Two presidents have served as postmasters, Harry Truman and Abe Lincoln. Although Truman assigned deputies and really only worked signing papers, Lincoln served as a working postmaster for 3 years, starting when he was age 24, and it was in a town called New Salem, Illinois. Some other postal employee names you might know. Bing Crosby, the crooner. He was a postal clerk. Sherman Hemsley, that's the actor that played George Jefferson in the TV show The Jeffersons. He was also a clerk. Everybody knows who Walt Disney is. Walt Disney was a substitute carrier. Rock Hudson, another actor, he was also a carrier. And not all of the famous ones were in show business. There's also Charles Lindbergh, who flew mail dispatch. Noah Webster of dictionary fame was a postal special agent, and even Conrad Hilton served as a postmaster. The Postal Service has a Herculean task. Michael Kujusamo explains in Communications of the ACM that the Postal Service is obligated by federal law to deliver to each U.S. address every day. That's over 150 million locations. The United States Postal Service processed 155 billion pieces of mail in the fiscal year of 2014. And that's 40% of the volume for the world. Each day in the postal system, they process and deliver an average of 512 million pieces of mail. That includes almost 210 million first-class mail pieces. Each day, they also process an average of 113,500 changes of address. That's a lot of people moving around. They also issue 320,000 money orders daily. How did all this come about? Well, let's take a look. The first generalized postal entity was created in 1639 when the General Court of Massachusetts designated a central tavern to be the official repository of mail from the mother countries to the colonies. Not just England, but all of the countries that had colonies could leave their mail there. From there, postal patrons relied on merchants, travelers, and even Native Americans to get the mail to its final destination. Then, in 1692, the post office became centralized when the British Crown, who was the main owner of the 13 original colonies, gave a 21-year grant to Thomas Neal to create a postal system. Neal had never visited the colonies in person, and instead he appointed a deputy postmaster and set up the system by proxy. This was still a postal system run by the Crown of England, as that was the official seat of government for the colonies. In 1753, Benjamin Franklin and William Hunter were appointed co-postmasters of the British-run system. Hunter died in office and was replaced by John Foxcroft, who served in the post until the outbreak of the Revolutionary War. Benjamin Franklin, however, was accused of being sympathetic to the growing rebellion and dismissed from the post in 1774. He didn't have long to miss it. In 1775, the Continental Congress created the position of Postmaster General and appointed Franklin to that position. This was the beginning of the American postal system, which eventually replaced the run by the British Crown. At this point, the main flow of mail in the fledgling new system was back and forth from Congress to the Army, and it was deemed so important that postmasters and postal riders were exempt from military conscription to ensure that the mail flowed. When the Declaration of Independence formed the United States, Franklin was still serving as Postmaster General, making him the first Postmaster General of the United States. Then, in 1800, Postal System headquarters moved from Philadelphia, where it was formed by Benjamin Franklin, to Washington, D.C., the new federal capital city. Now, at the time, the whole postal system, furniture, supplies, records, and all, fit into 2 horse-drawn wagons for the trip. That was cited from the United States Postal Service in American History. It's a fantastic publication. It's available on the USPS.com website. Until 1863, the postage you paid only covered the cost of delivery between post offices. Patrons expecting mail had to go to the post office to pick it up. That began to change when Congress passed an act providing that free city delivery be set up in cities where postal revenue was sufficient to pay for it. This was the beginning of door-to-door delivery. By 1912, new customers were required to place mail slots or mail receptacles at their door to decrease the time the carrier waited for the patron to open the door. Times have changed. The postal system has seen advances in technology that have helped the system, such as the massive sorting machines used to route the mail. Some of those can sort 400,000 pieces in a single shift. A progression of vehicles to aid in delivery. Although they still use pack animals, boats, helicopters, and even Segway vehicles. The vehicles they use range from some of the very first cars and trucks in production. There's a little Model A. They also cover the old venerable Jeeps that we are so familiar with. And today's fleet workhorse is called the Long Life Vehicle, or LLV. That's something that you would see on the streets today. That's the kind of vehicle that I drive. Not all of the technology changes have benefited the postal system, however. As technology moved forward, the fax machine took away a large part of postal revenue. Even more so when telephone rates dropped significantly from the invention and subsequent takeover of life in general of the cell phone. That was dwarfed by the revenue lost to the more recent advent and utilization of email, which made correspondence that took seconds instead of days the normal. Internet shopping, however, has actually been a boost to the service. Since they have a fleet in place and employees going to that address every day anyway, they're able to offer competitive rates for shipping items larger than sheets of paper. What does the future hold for the postal system? Some of the news is good. New product lines over the last few years, to include boxes, shipping supplies, priority and express mail products, have softened the blows to the system caused by technology, and more are in the testing phases. One day, you may use the post office as your bank, for instance. If they were to offer competitive financial products such as savings or checking accounts, money market accounts, or even currency exchange. The postal system already has a thriving market for money orders, after all. The service is striving not only to streamline, but to generate new sources of revenue as well. Some of the future looks murky, although the system would actually be in the black financially if not for the congressional mandate to fund employees' health benefits for 75 years into the future. The organization has become a master at economizing, yet letter mail volumes continue to decline, making even more cuts likely for survival. Former Postmaster General Donahoe even urged Congress to allow the postal system to determine its own delivery frequency, with an eye toward saving money by dropping delivery to 5 days a week. That's recorded in the Congressional Digest, February 1st of 2012. If you'd like to look it up. Why did he have to petition Congress? Because the postal system is the only federal entity that has congressional oversight, yet receives no appropriations from Congress. That is, Congress mandates what the Postal Service can or cannot do, in everything from the price of stamps to what days mail is delivered, yet the Postal Service receives no taxpayer money from which to do so. All of the revenue is generated by product and postage sales, and the service cannot increase the price of a stamp without approval from Congress. The majority of revenue is from what most consider junk mail, but in postal parlance that's UBBM, or unendorsed bulk business mail. Not from the first-class mail or periodicals as most people would imagine. Now, whether you feel that the post office is an antiquated relic that needs to be retired for good, or you think that it's a vital institution that deserves the ability to make its own way, the fact is that no one else can get a few sheets of paper from one side of the country to the other for less than $1 reliably as the postal system.